First of all, I just would like to say it's great to be here. I think what you do is terrific. Protecting the ocean is OceanX. So that's a good segue
Love it.
into the concept of OceanX. So OceanX, the quick origin story is that Ray Dalio and Mark Dalio, Ray being the father, Mark being the son, uh, began diving together when Ray was a bit older in life, and Ray was sort of inspired when he was young by Cousteau, but didn't think I think much about the ocean until later in life when he started diving with his sons. And he became aware that the ocean, first of all, it's magnificent, but that the world was not appreciating it as much, and that there was a lot of troubles in the ocean, that there's a lot of problems with the ocean, and I think Ray just had one of those moments that Ray has where he decided, let's try something here. Let's see if something happens. And this ship, Alucia, the original vessel that we had, came on the market. And Ray, being a very spontaneous guy, just said, let's buy it. And he's not a yacht guy.
Right.
So he's got small boats, but he's not like, I'll buy a yacht. So this thing came
Yeah.
online, and it was a research vessel. He's like, okay, it's available. So without much thought, he bought it, I think. I don't want to say that, but he didn't. He bought it. He said, let's see if this works. And then he got together with a lot of interesting people at Woods Hole and
Yeah.
learned about it. And his model was basically, I'm going to take this out and we're going to use it, and we're going to invite scientists to come on board. And so I met him very early on at the beginning of this because he did a few expeditions, and then
Right.
I was at the time a scientist, a neuroscientist, and we were very interested in these glowing proteins that we use in the ocean. And so I had done some expeditions looking for these things, and we had this really good exhibition at the Museum of Natural History, and in it we had all this beautiful glowing things and bioluminescence and everything like that. So I was kind of working with the Museum of Natural History, and then Ray Dalio made a donation to the museum and said, here's some money, and put out a request amongst your scientists if they want to come and do this kind of ocean work on the ship. So I got a call from my friends. I was kind of an adjunct there at the museum, and they said, we've done these expeditions. You want to go work with this guy? I didn't know who he was or anything. I said, sure. So we put a application in, got the grant, and worked for about 6-8 months building equipment, all this kind of cool stuff. Went to the Solomon Islands with Ray on the boat. Spent about 2.5 weeks there doing magnificent work in this beautiful place, science, samples, everything. And then the last day or two, Ray showed up on the boat, wanted to see what was going on because he kept hearing all these
Yeah.
good things about it. So he came, and I met him, and we spent an evening together, like a dinner. He brought me up back on the boat. We were all staying on shore in Honey Airy. And I came back on the boat. Anyways, ate dinner with him, met him, just was like amazed by him as a person. In all fairness, I really didn't know much about him. And I thought, it's just another finance guy.
Yeah.
And but he has this very, very interesting way of thinking. He's written a lot about it. He's got a very principled, very organized thought process. And I came away thinking, this is a guy who's basically a scientist. He's like the way he evaluates things and his logic. If you read the books, it's a lot about rational thought, which seemed to me, I said, it sounds like you're talking like scientist here. And I think he has an affinity for the sciences. I really think in another life, he would have been a great scientist as well. Anyway, so he and I began like a friendship that lasted several years, where he would invite me out on the boat on some expeditions and some other things to see how things were going, and we sort of became friends over the next couple of years. And then at one point he just said, hey, do you want to join, this organization? At the time it was called Alucia Productions. And I said, I got a job. I'm a professor, I'm a full-time neuroscience professor, and what do I know about the ocean? And he said, well,
Yeah.
you got a head on you for science, so why don't you come and
Yeah.
join? So I joined the program around 2017 full-time as an employee, but I
Okay.
met him back in 2013. And he said, "Oh, you're in charge of the whole thing." And I was like, "Okay, that's shocking." So I was still a professor, remain a professor today. But he said, "Come on and let's do this thing." And then immediately he said, "Let's buy a new boat. We need a bigger boat." So that became the sort of vision. And what he said to me was, and what I learned on the boat was that he really felt that science was needed. The science of the ocean needed a visual component to it. It needed a way to translate it. And I remember him saying, like, there's a lot of science papers published about the
It's true.
world, and yet the world doesn't listen, right?
It's true.
So, and I remember thinking to myself that year there was something like 11,000 papers published on climate, and why are we
Yeah.
still, the science. I'll say this, and probably nobody will want to hear it, but the science around climate is pretty settled. right? We know what's going on, and a lot of
Yeah.
ocean themes. Unfortunately, the science of human inflicted problems is settled. Now, oceanography is not settled, but what we're
Right.
doing to the ocean is settled. We shouldn't. We're overfishing. We're polluting.
Yep.
Plastic. But you know it. The list, right?
Yep.
So doing more science on the impact of that is important, but solutions are the most important thing at this point, and
Hmm.
getting the word out and letting people know that this is not going well and we have to change. So OceanX was really built to first and foremost to celebrate the ocean, to make sure that, the old quote, you don't protect what you don't love, and you got to make them love it. And Cousteau made us love it. Ray, my
Yes.
generation, we just loved
100%.
just the way he visualized and this. So this was kind of like, let's do a Cousteau moment in a modern, updated version of Cousteau, right?
Yeah.
So let's show the world. Let's make the world fall in love with the ocean, and then protection will follow. And so that was it. And then the idea was doing great science. And Ray, the first time I met with him, he gave me this Venn diagram, and the Venn diagram was great science and great media.